Question is that given an array of non-negative integers, find the smallest length subarray of the array such that the value of the AND operation of the largest two elements in that subarray is maximum. Print the length of the required subarray. The length of the subarray should be at least 2. So we have to only consider the subarrays whose length is greater than equals to 2. We can have multiple subarrays of an array. For example, in this case, we are having an array with elements 12, 5, 4 and 15, and it can have 6 subarrays. So over here we are only considering the subarrays whose length is greater than equals to 2. So out of all these subarrays, the subarray having elements 12, 5, 4, 15, that is the original array itself, the AND value of the largest two elements, that is the AND value of 12 and 15 is 12, and this value is maximum out of all the other AND values of all the other subarrays. So the subarray which we are looking for is this subarray with elements 12, 5, 4 and 15, and its length is 4, so we have to print 4 as our answer. In an interview, whenever you get a coding question, the first solution you should think should be your brute force solution. It is always easy to think the brute force solution, and so it does not take much time. The main advantage of it is that you will understand the problem very well and you will get to know that what you have to do in the question. Also, many times you will get a direction in which you should think and you can get the more optimized solution. So over here our brute force solution will be to consider all the subarrays of an array, find out the AND value of the largest two elements in that subarray, and then out of all the subarrays select the required subarray, which is our answer. Over here we are using a nested for loop, so the outer for loop or the outer pointer, ith pointer, points to the first corner or the first end of the subarray, and the inner for loop, that is the jth pointer, points to the second end or second corner of the subarray. Now while building the subarray, we are also keeping the track of the maximum element and the second maximum element in our subarray, and then we are finding the AND value of the maximum element and the second maximum element, and if this AND value is the maximum value encountered till now, we are updating our answer. Also, if this value is not maximum but is equal to maximum, but the length of the subarray, this current subarray, is smaller, then also we are taking this current subarray. So the time complexity of this solution is O of n square and the space complexity of this solution is O of 1. So the time complexity is O of n square, but we have to solve this in O of n time complexity. So we have to optimize our brute force solution. Now let's consider an example in which we are having an array of length 12, right? So using the above code, what we are doing is that we are considering all the subarrays of this array whose length is greater than equals to 2. For example, we are considering this subarray as well, whose starting index is 2 and ending index is 8. But is there a need to consider this subarray? So let us understand this. In this example, we will get the maximum value of AND of two elements if we take 12 and 15 as the elements. This is because the AND value of 12 and 15 is 12, and in this example, if we consider any other two elements, we will never get an AND value greater than the AND value of 12 and 15. So our answer will be an subarray which will contain the elements 12 and 15. Now as there can be multiple subarrays containing elements 12 and 15, we have to choose the smallest length subarray. So in this example, we have taken 6 subarrays which contains elements 12 and 15, right? But the subarray or the answer is the smallest subarray, that is the subarray starting at index 3 and ending at index 6. Now if we add an element and if we increase the size of our subarray, that is over here we have added the element 1 as we have taken the 7th index as well. This one is useless for us. Why? Because the maximum and second maximum is still 12 and 15. So this one is just increasing the length of the subarray. Similarly, we have added 3. This 3 is also useless because still the maximum and second maximum is 12 and 15, and so this 1 and 3 are just increasing the length of our subarray. Over here, if we have added element 5, this 5 is also useless. In this case, we have added element 2 and 5. This 2 and 5 is also useless. And in the last case, we have added element 2, 5, and 1 and 3. So all these 4 elements are useless because still the maximum and second maximum elements are 15 and 12, and the value of all these subarrays are 12. Now we want the smallest length subarray out of all these subarrays. So there is no need to check all these subarrays by adding extra elements. So one key observation which we have to make over here is that the largest and the second largest element of the subarray should be at the corners of the subarray. So instead of checking all the subarrays in the brute force solution, check only those subarrays in which the largest and the second largest elements of the subarray are at the corner of the subarray. Now this is because on adding that extra element at the end of the subarray and increasing the length of the subarray, if still the second maximum and the maximum elements of that subarray are same, there is no need and there is no meaning of adding that extra element, because that extra element is just growing the length of the subarray and we want the smallest length subarray. Okay, so there is no point on adding that extra element. So we will only consider the subarrays in which the maximum and the second maximum element of the subarrays are at the corners or at the ends of our subarray. Okay, so in brute force solution, what we were doing is that we were considering every element as one endpoint of the subarray and every other element as another endpoint of the subarray. So basically we were finding all the subarrays of the array, right? But now we only have to consider those subarrays in which the maximum and second maximum elements are at the corner of the subarray, right? So for example, when the ith pointer is pointing at 5 and 5 is one of the endpoint of the subarray, so now 5 must be the maximum or the second maximum element of our subarray, right? Now what we were doing in brute force is that we were now starting our jth pointer, decrementing jth pointer and considering all the elements which are behind the ith pointer as the second endpoint of our subarray, right? But now we will not do this. We will keep on decrementing the jth pointer till we find an element which is greater than the element at the ith pointer, right? So in this case, we will keep on decrementing the jth pointer till we find an element which is greater than 5, because ith pointer is pointing at 5. Now why we will do so? So consider this example and understanding by this example, when the ith pointer is pointing at 5 and initially jth pointer is pointing at 4, right? So we have taken an subarray of indexes 4 and 5. Now over here, the maximum element is still the ith element, right? So we can decrement the jth pointer more, because it can happen that we can encounter an element which is greater than 5, right? And our maximum or second maximum element can update, and over there as well we can find a valid subarray, right? Because in that case also the maximum element and second maximum element will be at the corners or at the ends of the subarray. So we can decrement the jth pointer because we can find an element which is greater than the ith element, right? So we will decrement the jth pointer and we will go to 12. Now jth pointer is at 12, so we will stop. We will not go behind this. Why we will not go behind this? Because on going more backward, If we find an element which is smaller than the ith element or equal to the ith element, there is no point in keeping that element because now the ith element is the second largest element and the 12 is the first largest element in this example, right? And so those elements, they are smaller than the ith element, they are just waste for us. Okay, now if we find an element which is greater than the ith element, that is which is greater than 5 in this case. Okay, for example, if we find a 6, now 5 will become the third largest element of the subarray, right? But we are considering only those subarrays in which the endpoints either contain the largest element or the second largest element of the subarray. But now the endpoint, which is the fifth index, contains the third largest element of the subarray, and so these subarrays are not valid. So there is no point in going back because in both the cases, if we find an element less than or equal to the ith element, or if we find an element greater than the ith element, in both the cases, we are not going to get a valid subarray and we are not going to get any valid subarray, so we will stop when we get an element which is greater than the ith element. So basically the idea is that we will keep on decrementing the jth pointer and keep on finding the next endpoint of the subarray till the element at the ith pointer is the maximum element of the subarray. This is because on further decrementing the jth pointer, we can encounter an element which is greater than the ith element, and currently ith element is the largest element of the subarray, or we can encounter an element which is greater than the current second maximum element of the subarray, and in both the cases the encountered element will become the maximum or the second maximum element of the subarray, and at that time as well the subarray will be valid and we have to consider that subarray, right? So we will stop decrementing the jth pointer when we encounter an element which is greater than the ith element, because when we encounter that element, the ith element will become the second largest element of the subarray, right? Now ith element is the second largest element of the subarray, so on further decrementing the jth pointer, if we find an element smaller than the ith element or equal to the ith element, so those elements will be useless for us, right? Because currently ith element will be the second largest element, so those elements will be less than the second largest element, so they will never be considered. And if we find an element greater than the ith element, so it will become the second largest or the largest element, and so the ith element will become the third largest element. But what we have taken is that we have taken the ith element as the endpoint of the subarray, and the endpoint should contain either the largest or the second largest element. So that subarray will be useless as well. So we will never get an valid subarray on further decrementing. So we will stop when we will get an element which is greater than the ith element. So now we are going to improve our brute force solution. So as we did in our brute force solution, we are going to make subarrays, and for that we need two loops. So basically we need a nested loop in which the outer loop, which contains the ith pointer, it points to an element, and the element which the ith pointer is pointing to, it is the right end of the subarray. Now, as we discussed above, the ith element is the first corner of the subarray. So ith element is one of the endpoint of the subarray. So it should contain either the first maximum element in the subarray or second maximum element in the subarray. And as we discussed, we will keep on decrementing the jth pointer, which basically points to the second end of the subarray, the left end of the subarray, and we will stop decrementing the jth pointer. That is, we will stop increasing the length of the subarray, we will stop making new subarrays when ith element becomes the second maximum element in the subarray. Now, as we did in the brute force solution, we are going to keep the track of the maximum element and the second maximum element in the subarray while building the subarray. Now on decrementing the jth pointer, if we encounter an element to which the jth pointer is pointing, and that new element basically becomes the maximum element or second maximum element of the subarray, right? Then that subarray is a valid subarray, and we are going to consider only those subarrays. And if this is not the case, we are going to decrement the jth pointer more without considering that subarray and without considering its value. Also, if at any point the jth pointer points to an element which becomes the maximum element of the subarray, in that case the maximum element becomes the second maximum element, that is the ith pointer pointing to the element. The ith element becomes the second maximum element, and this is the condition when we have to stop. So we will mark the found greater element flag as true, and at the end we will check that if this is true, we will break at that point only, and we will consider that subarray as well. So we will consider that subarray the end case subarray, and then we are going to break our for loop. So first case time complexity of this solution is also O of n square, and space complexity is O of 1, right? So we have to think more on this solution, and we have to improve this as well so that we get an time complexity of O of n. Now let us consider this example, and suppose at any point the ith pointer is pointing at index 5, that is at element 7. So jth pointer will start from pointing at element 4 at index 4, and then jth pointer will keep on decrementing. Okay. So now the valid subarrays which we will get as the jth pointer keep on decrementing is when the jth pointer points at index 4, that is this subarray. Then when the jth pointer points at index 1, that is this subarray. And finally, when the jth pointer points at index 0, that is this subarray. So one key observation which we can make over here is that for the valid subarrays, the values at the jth pointer, they keep on increasing as the jth pointer keep on decrementing, right? So the first valid subarray was this one, in which the jth pointer was having the value 4. Then the next valid subarray as the jth pointer keep on decrementing was this one with the jth pointer's value 5, and then the third subarray was this one where the jth pointer's value was 12. So the first valid subarray is always at the position when j equals to I minus 1, and as the jth pointer keeps on decrementing, we will get valid subarrays only at those indexes where the value is greater than the all other values which jth pointer has taken till now, right? So for example, over here we will get a valid subarray at 5 because till now the jth pointer has taken all the values, 5 is greatest of all of them. Similarly, over here we will get a valid subarray because till now all the values which jth pointer has taken, 12 is the greatest among all of them. So instead of decrementing the pointer linearly, what we can do is that we can directly jump to these values by skipping the other values which are not required, right? So this will save us a lot of time, and this will help us to decrease our time complexity. Now for this we can use stack. Let us understand from this example how can we solve it using stack. When ith pointer is pointing at an index of an array, all the indexes where jth pointer can point will be pushed in the stack. So we just have to check the values by taking them out of the stack. While pushing an element in the stack, we have to follow these rules. So let us try run this example and check how can this solve our problem. Now suppose currently the ith pointer is pointing at index 5, that is at element 7. So all the values which jth pointer can point to are from indexes 0 to 4. So we have to push them in the stack, and while pushing we have to follow these rules. So initially we will push 12 as jth pointer will take the value 12 at the end. So we will push it first so that it comes out from the stack at the end. Now we will push 5. While pushing, we will check that if the top of the stack is smaller than the element which we are pushing, then we will pop the elements from the stack till we find a top which is greater than the element which we are pushing. So by this process, the stack will only maintain the valid values of j for any particular I. Now we will push 3. As 5 is greater than 3, we will not pop 5 out. Then we will push 1. Now when we are pushing 4, at that point we will check that 1 is smaller than 4. So once the jth pointer has encountered the value 4, on further decrementing the jth pointer, this value 1 is useless for us, so we will pop it out from the stack. Similarly, 3 is smaller than 4, and so this 3 will be useless for us as jth pointer has encountered value 4 till now, so this 3 will be popped from the stack as well. Now the top of the stack, that is 5, is greater than 4. So we will not pop 5 out and we will just push 4. So you can check that at any point stack is maintaining the values only which will give us the valid subarrays, right? Now we will get the values 4, 5 and 12 from the stack. Okay. Now suppose ith pointer is incremented and now the ith pointer is pointing at index 6, that is at value 15. Now jth pointer can also take value 7. So we will push 7 as well in the stack, as all the previous values have been already pushed in the stack. So no need to push them again. We just have to push this 7. While pushing 7, we have to follow these rules. As the top of the stack, which is 4, is smaller than 7, we will pop 4 out from the stack. As 5, which is top of the stack, is smaller than 7, we will pop 5 from the stack as well. Now as the top of the stack, which is 12, is greater than 7, we will stop and we will push 7. So now as you can see, the valid values when ith pointer is pointing at index 6, that is at element 15, will be 7 and 12, and stack is only giving us these valid values. It is not giving us these useless values. Now let us increment the ith pointer once again. So now ith pointer is pointing at index 7, that is at element 1. So we have to push 15 as well because jth pointer can point at this value as well. So while pushing 15, we will again follow this rule. As 7, which is top of the stack, is smaller than 15, we will pop 7 out. Now as 12, which is top of the stack, is smaller than 15, we will pop 12 out as well. Now stack is empty, so there is no element left. So we will just push 15 in the stack. So for 1, we can see that the only valid value which j will take is 15 and stack is only giving us that value. Right? Now similarly for all these, we have to follow this approach only. I will request you all to please try run this example so that you get a very clear understanding of what we are doing and you get a help in writing down code. Now by dry running the above example, we have observed that whenever ith pointer is pointing at an index of an array, all the valid indexes where jth pointer can point and these valid indexes which will give us the valid subarrays, all those indexes are present in the stack. Now let us understand the code. As we discussed in the above example, we will be needing a stack, so we have taken a stack. In this stack, we will be pushing the indexes of the values instead of the values itself. Now we need a loop which will basically iterate over the array and take each element of the array as the right end of the subarray. So in this loop, the ith pointer at any time pointing to that element, that means that element at that point is the right end of the subarray. Now as we discussed above, when ith pointer is pointing at an element, then all the valid values which jth pointer can point, they are all kept in the stack, right? Now valid values of the jth pointer are the values which when taken as the left end of the subarray gives us the valid subarray, and valid subarray is the subarray in which the largest element and the second largest element are at the corners of the subarray, right? Okay, so now we will start forming the subarrays and we will start decrementing the jth pointer, and we will keep on decrementing the jth pointer till we find an index at which the jth pointer is pointing such that the element at that index is greater than the element at the ith index, right? that is the element at which the ith pointer is pointing. That is what we have written down the condition over here. So now stack contains only the valid indexes. So we will take the element at the top of the stack, and as this element is smaller than the element at which the ith pointer is pointing, right? This is a valid subarray, so we will update our maximum element and second maximum element. We will find the answer of this subarray and we will update the answer accordingly, right? Also, we will pop the top element of the stack because as discussed in the above example, this element is smaller than the element to which the current ith pointer is pointing, and so this will be popped out when we will push the ith element in the stack. So we will keep on doing this till the top of the stack contains an element which is smaller than the ith element, or till the stack is not empty. Now, as we are out of the above loop, and if the stack is not empty, that means the top of the stack contains an element which is greater than the element at which the ith pointer is pointing, right? So that is the last valid subarray which we can get, and as discussed above, further decrementing the jth pointer will not give us any valid subarray, so we will stop after this last case. So we will take this last case, but this time the maximum element will be the element at the jth pointer, and second maximum element will be the element at the ith pointer. So we will update our answer. Okay, and now we will push the ith element, because as discussed in the above example, on incrementing the ith pointer, this previous element will also be a possible answer at which the jth pointer can point. So we will push this in the stack, and now this loop ith pointer will be incremented, right? And this thing will go on. Now in this case, each element is pushed in the stack once, right? And while iterating the array through the loop which contains the ith pointer, we are considering the elements from the stack, and once an element is popped from the stack, it won't be considered again. So time complexity of this solution is O of n, and the space complexity is also O of n, as we are using a stack. The above discussed stack approach can also be used to find the next greater element of each element in the forward and backward direction. How? Suppose we have to push an element p in the stack. While pushing, we will pop the topmost element of the stack, that is element r, if it is smaller than element p. We will keep on doing this till the elements on the top of the stack are smaller than the element p. The elements which will be popped are on the left side of the p, because they are already in the stack and we are iterating the array from left to right. So when we are standing at element p, all the elements on the left side of it are already pushed in the stack, and so the popped element are on the left side of the p, and so the next greater element on the right side of these elements, that is the elements that are popped from the stack, will be p. When the top of the stack contains an element q which is greater than p, then we will stop popping the elements from the stack and we will push p on the stack. As q is on the left side of the p, the next greater element on the left side of p will be q, right? So while pushing an element on the stack, we will find its next greater element on the left side, and while popping the element from the stack, we will find its next greater element on the right side. If you like this video, please like it and share it. And for more tech related and interview preparation related content, please subscribe my channel. I'm going to post many more such interview questions. So please subscribe so that you get notified whenever I upload these videos. Thank you so much.